What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming, and I have got an epic team commentary for you today. We're going to be taking a look, we're going to be taking a look at a game that I played myself with some friends of mine. We have EonShikeno, who you should know, hopefully he's got his own YouTube channel, and then his buddy TimeLord here. So it is myself, Force, as the Blue Terran player, EonShikeno as the Teal or Aqua Terran player, and then the red Protoss player is TimeLord. And our opponents in this game are Habo Hobo as the orange Zerg. We have the yellow Terran player Fuckler, and then Brassilirio. I'll just call him Brass as the purple Protoss player. So yes, this is a 3v3, and this was just an incredibly epic game, and I decided I could do a couple of things with this. I could do a commentary to kind of amp up that level of excitement that I certainly felt while playing the game, or I could do a boring, mundane strategy video, and a strategy video really doesn't fit in this particular instance, just because this is probably one of the most absurd games that I have ever played. So hopefully you guys enjoy this commentary. We can see right now, Brass is moving out with his probe scout right into my base, just getting a little bit of scouting information, and I actually pulled down with that second SCV to drop the barracks at the front because I wanted to do some scouting with that SCV that finished the depot. And then, of course, our buddy Brass over here being a huge pain in the rear and deciding to pull on down for some SCV harass, but wisely I did pull down with my SCV to try to engage that. Force is SCV. I'm going to just call myself Force in this game. Yes, I know it is myself, but that's the only way this commentary is going to go off smoothly. So Force is moving right into the main base and gets some scouting of Brass, and he will be seeing pretty much standard stuff over here. TimeLord getting some scouting down as well, and look at what he's going to run into. Habo Hobo pushing out with some incredibly early Zerglings, and this is a huge issue for everyone, but for Protoss in particular. In these team games with these wide ramps, Zergling pushes early game are very frustrating to deal with. You can see right now I'm continuing to chase around this probe scout that was moving and trying to be a little bit harassive, but TimeLord is in a tough situation right now because he does have these 8 Zerglings pulling straight across the map, and if those Zerglings try to move into his base, well, it's pretty much not going to be an issue whatsoever because the wall off is not complete. Now we can see TimeLord actually chrono boosting out that first zealot, and unfortunately he is coming out with his gateway here instead of at the wall off. Now I want to let you guys know as well, this is a masters level 3v3. We are all masters players, TimeLord, EonShikeno, and myself on the 1v1 account that I play on. On this account, Ekroff, I actually don't play ones enough, so it's actually not masters on this account, but on my main 1v1 account, yes, I am indeed masters. For anyone wondering, anyone who has questions, and look at that, Zerglings dropping down the pylon, so unfortunately for TimeLord, not able to finish off that zealot, and that of course would have helped him tremendously. So this type of harassment early game, as you can see, is a huge nuisance. Now I'm going to be moving across with the first Marine that I get and trying to stay away from those Zerglings, and hopefully TimeLord helps the Marine, but no, he does not. He pulls back because he was afraid of losing too many probes, but I really needed his assistance, and what am I doing? A huge dummy with an SCV there inside of the main base. Habo Hobo continuing to stream out Zerglings and trying to attack and just be relentless here at the main base of TimeLord. Now, as terms of what I'm doing over here, you can see right now coming out with a factory. I was going for a reactor at Hellions early game. I wanted to do some early aggression. EonShikeno moving across with some of those Marines to help our buddy TimeLord out. Now, TimeLord is sitting at this point in the game with just these 2 probes, so he has got a long way in terms of recovery. We do have Eon continuing to defend the main base. Now, it looks like at this point, Habo Hobo pretty content with the amount of damage that he did. He will be starting to macro up. We can see we'll start probably to work on his drone count at this point. Also, it does have that hatchery coming out. Now, what are his teammates doing? Looks like we do have a reactor here on this barracks, as well as some Hellions. Looks like Infernal Pre-Igniter Hellions coming out from the yellow Terran player Fuckler, and our buddy Brass over here will be chrono boosting out that warp gate research, and looks like he's playing pretty standard as well. Actually, no, I'm a little interested to see where the rest of what he is doing is. What is he doing? What's this guy doing? There we go. So coming out with additional gateway finally, possibly a 3-gate robo that actually looks like, or I'm sorry, a 3-gate expand looks like what he may be doing, although the 3rd gateway was a little bit delayed. Back over here, you can see I am coming out with some Hellions right now. I do have that starport up as well, and given the amount of damage that our ally TimeLord took, I actually decided in addition to this Hellion harass that I wanted to come out with some Cloak Banshees. I figured that was the best response to try to even up the odds, considering how far behind we were already. And actually EonShikeno doing the same thing. You can see that Cloak Research coming out, but in addition to that, he has got an expansion coming out, and obviously in lieu of that expansion, I myself am spending those resources on these early game Hellions. So right now, moving out with some Hellions, and I'm moving in to try to do a little bit of harass. This was my basic mentality at this point in the game. So here we go. Hellions moving into the main base of Habbo Hobo, and how will this fare? Moving right to the resource line, roasting one drone there, and getting a few right there. Nice lineup and nice shot, and look at that roasting. Very unfortunate for Habbo Hobo. Unfortunately for myself, though, Fuckler moving in with some of those infernal pre-igniter Hellions and actually tore through mine. I took some damage there as well from that queen. Now we do have a push coming out right now from Brass, and he looks like he will be moving out with Stalker and Sentry Heavy, a Zealot in the mix there as well. So just starting off actually with that 3-gate, trying to invest a lot of resources into this first initial push, and then here comes that infernal pre-igniter Hellion as well. Unfortunately for myself, not a lot sitting in the main base. I do have these 4 Hellions pushing out across the map. Unfortunately, since they're besides the sentries there and the Hellions as well, not a lot of light units, I actually decided to just move out with a counterattack instead of engaging that. So here comes the push into my main base. I realized those Stalkers would have wiped up my Hellions very quickly, so I'm continuing to push across the map and try to do some harassment while at the same time trying to deal with this. We do have Fuckler moving across the map as well, but here comes EonShikeno to the rescue, trying to help assist in the main base attack that is going down right here. A force field being dropped down, unfortunately stopping Eon from pushing into the main base. Now I attempted to push right into Brass's base. Unfortunately, that did get denied, and I will be trying to move inside of Fuckler's base, but unfortunately for me, walking right by that siege tank, and that actually took a lot of losses, so my Hellions weren't really able to do all that much damage. Back to the main base, trying to defend, but what is going on? As we can see, Brass pushing in with that 3-gate push was able to do a lot of damage, but at the same time, I did counterattack, moving out with this Banshee and hit the mineral line. And actually, let's see how much damage this Banshee has done. Already sitting at 10 kills right now, so obviously doing a lot of damage, certainly worth moving out. But look, the main base is all but gone, pulling my SCVs away from the Stalkers, trying to let them survive even just for a little bit. Banshee of EonShikeno will be moving to actually deal with and mop up these Stalkers. There are no observers in play yet, so Brass cannot actually handle that. I'm moving across the map and actually believe I intend on dropping an expansion somewhere. I don't quite remember at this point in the game, though. Also, at the same time, dropping at this high-yield island expansion, and this kind of becomes my sanctuary at that point. Continuing to try to do some damage. Brass target firing down the tech structures. Obviously, my main base here at this point is all but lost. We can see TimeLord getting himself back inside of the game after losing as much as he did. We do have EonShikeno moving across the map, and he also does have this expansion. The one that we saw building in his main actually get transferred down in this high yield, and he will be taking advantage of those rich mineral fields. Clearly, back over here, I am going for an expansion here at this high yield. I can't transfer quite at the moment my units. I would have actually come out with a Banshee, but unfortunately I decided, you know what, I should actually just go out with some continued Banshee harass. Now this Banshee at the moment has 0 kills, but let's move inside of the main and see what we can do of Fuckler over here. He does have no turrets in play. I've got Cloak Research, and here comes some damage being laid down. Banshee here of EonShikeno continuing to move across the map and do some work as well. There's the Cloak Research. I do realize, seeing that energy, that he does have the energy force scan, so just trying to pull away and do as much damage, let him waste that energy, and once the scan dissipates, I'll actually be pushing back inside of his main base. Here we go, the expansion at the high yield being constructed. We do have my expansion at this high yield here as well. My main base, even though it's in shambles right now, still continuing to produce out of what I can, deciding I could use some siege tanks, actually pulling off of that reactor and getting a tech lab there on that factory, moving across the map with this Banshee. Here's this Banshee moving out as well. I am contending with Vikings at this point, so I do need to be very, very careful. Converging here on the Protoss player's base, I did get one Banshee. That was EonShikeno's Banshee, actually, that got dropped, but I will be trying to do some damage over here. Unfortunately, the one Banshee I had en route over here did get taken out by those Vikings. Realizing there was an observer in play, because this Banshee did get hit by that Stalker, I decided to pull him back. Again, for fear of those Vikings, I had already lost one Banshee to those Vikings, so I needed to head back home so that I could try to defend myself as much as possible. And I did actually avoid pulling close to this expansion, but look at how close Fuckler gets to this expansion, but he didn't actually end up checking it, and I did manage to get a few shots off here at this pylon. Unfortunately, though, here come the Vikings to mop me up. Now back over here, we do have TimeLord, and again, as mentioned prior, trying to rebuild, trying to get back in this game after that heavy economic loss. The fact that he is the one with the base still standing is pretty unbelievable. In fact, in all honesty, if the opposing team had pushed on him a second time instead of wiping out our mains, they would have fared much better, because at this point TimeLord was able to rebuild his army. Now we do have another push coming out from Brass as well as Fuckler, and they have actually spotted my high yield expansion. That is forcing me to lift it off and try to pull out of there, because I do not want to lose this. But unfortunately, lots of Stalkers as well as those Vikings, and I do believe I lose this orbital command as a result of that. Back here inside of the main, I am trying to continue to keep up this Banshee production as much as possible, and at this point I realize I need to start kind of making my main base here at this high yield, so that is precisely what goes on. We can see a large force out here for Habbo Hobo, Fuckler, as well as Brass, and they will be continuing to push. In fact, at this point they will be moving right on into EonShikeno's base, and Eon looking to be in a lot of trouble. He was asking for help at this point, and I obviously was more than happy to provide whatever assistance that I could, at the same time moving my main base. But here comes the push right now. Big push from Brass, Habbo Hobo, as well as Fuckler. We can see TimeLord trying to engage, but wants to be careful. He does not want to walk into those siege tanks, picking off outlying units as much as possible. As soon as he gets within tank range, he does push back. EonShikeno trying to defend himself, but unfortunately that siege line making that bio pretty much useless. Luckily, he is sitting with quite a few Banshees. That is going to help his situation quite a bit. Banshees able to engage, just need to stay away from those Vikings as well as that Observer. The Observer placement there actually very nice. Trying to move forward with some of these Marines to try to snipe off a couple of units, but again, needs to be very careful about engaging that siege line. We have a couple more Stalkers moving across the map as well. At this point, I will be starting to come out with some more Banshees from the starports here at that island expansion, but this engagement, very dangerous situation for EonShikeno. He is hanging on by a thread. His main base does not have a lot left at this point in the game. As you can see, Stalkers starting to tear through with the protection of that siege line, but here we go. TimeLord pushing down as the Stalkers here of Brass are up in the main base of Eon and sniping out a couple of those tanks. Just one tank remaining right now. What does he have going on? He does have those level 1 upgrades out already, and so that certainly helps him quite a bit, but these are just way too many Stalkers right now from Brass for Eon to deal with. Eon trying to do what he can, but unfortunately, because of that Observer placement, those Banshees do get target fired down very quickly by those Stalkers, and those Stalkers very frustrating to deal with. Clearly, when that cloak detection is there, sitting on just those Banshees, and all of the bio units of EonShikeno did get mopped up from that tank placement. But there we go. TimeLord was finally able to mop up that tank. Again, taking a look over here, EonShikeno was actually making a transition. Look at that fusion core coming down with some battle cruisers. That was his planned transition at this point in the game. I moved back another additional expansion here at the high yield. Again, still at this point in the game, unbeknownst to the opposing team, although they did just spot that with the Vikings. So really surprised they didn't just move in instantly. We get to now attempt drop coming down from Brass, but actually losing his War Prism to that missile turret, not paying quite enough attention. I have finally started up my Banshee production again. Luckily enough, because I really need to do some damage, realizing I did need this factory, moving across the map to do some scouting with it. And at this point, the biggest thought process in our head was, alright, if we can just continue to try to stop their expansions and defend our high yields, then we actually could be in a good spot. So at this point in the game, turrets become very important. We can see turret placement here at my high yield, as well as EonShikeno's over here as well. Taking a look over here, Habbo Hobo getting Hydras right now. Nobody really doing the best job of dealing with those island expansions. Let's take a look at their vision. They actually only know about mine at this point, and they're just finding out about EonShikeno, so now fully aware of what's going on. And we do have TimeLord mopping up a few units there of the opposing force that were inside of what was once EonShikeno's main base. EonShikeno moving over a couple of barracks here to my high yield expansion as well, and look at that defense from those turrets, and that will help quite a bit dealing with drop harass or anything of the like. Now Brass over here, what does he have going on? Just sitting on these 3 gateways as well as that 1 robo, finally getting up his expansion right now as well. There's just been so much action right now. The late macro hasn't come into play at this point in the game, just because everyone's been focused on this continuous aggression and this attack from our opposing team. Now back over here, TimeLord trying to mop up any of those remaining pylons that were sitting across the map from Brass. Brass does have an additional War Prism. Looks like he will be trying to move across the map again, and hopefully for his sake he can avoid these these turrets this time, because as we saw last time, he moved right into the turrets. So what is going to happen? This is the second time a War Prism has tried to move in this expansion. No, actually just sitting here for the moment, not actually deciding to move in quite as of yet. Back over here, we can see EonShikeno sitting with 1 battlecruiser, 2 battlecruisers coming through as well, and we do also have that ship plating coming in. Now, we do have TimeLord sitting with quite a large force, so EonShikeno sitting with a proxy starport over here and coming out with as well with some battlecruisers in this position. Now, you can see right now I'm trying to actually move back into my main. I have finally lost that high yield. There was some good tank placement here, and with that Observer, he was actually able to shell out on that High Lord, so was forced to leave at that point. Factory Scout still sitting over here, but here we go, moving across the map with some Banshees. I'm sniping down some of these probes, trying to stay away from those Stalkers, though. Luckily enough for me, they do not have blink, so I was able to move actually right into the main of Brass and do some damage here as well before being forced to retreat. And here come the Vikings as well as that Observer and pulling away, and luckily because of the speed of those Banshees and this unupgraded Observer, I was able to get away with a vast majority of those Banshees. At the same time, here comes a push from EonShikeno and TimeLord, moving on to the expansion of Habo Hobo, and once more, this is precisely what we are trying to do in this game, trying to just deny those expansions and hurt their econ, even though they are clearly drastically ahead in this game. If we can stop them from mining, then they really can't do much of anything. Now, we do have Brass moving across the map. I guess they have spotted the fact that this main base is being rebuilt by myself, and this will actually force me to pretty much cancel everything, because I really can't even deal with the small amount of stalkers. I do have the Banshee sitting over here, so I will be moving to engage with those in just one moment. Back over here, we do have TimeLord checking the expansions. Once more, this is the main priority, the main focus of this. Now, look at the work that these battle cruisers are doing here for EonShikeno, sitting with quite a few kills, tearing right through this Hydra force. Unfortunately, Eon losing the one right there and forced to retreat at that point. Back over here, TimeLord moving back into his main. He does have an expansion up finally right now, sitting in this position, which was what was once the natural expansion of EonShikeno is now going to be the natural expansion of TimeLord. Back over here, large force from Fuckler moving across the map. Marauder heavy tanks here as well, and Vikings to deal with that anti-air. So very heavy anti-ground, especially for the Protoss ground army here of TimeLord. These tanks plus those Marauders would do very well, and then obviously these Vikings to deal with my Banshees as well as the battle cruisers from EonShikeno. Back over here, you can see that main base again getting mopped up from all of these stalkers. I lost everything there at that point, lifted off this command center, moved it across the map, and I actually believe I decided to try to land in this position, but EonShikeno had claimed that. He was reclaiming his main base, and obviously, understandably, I allowed him to do so. Back over here, moving into the expansion of Brass, and look at this, these Banshees doing work, and since the main force of both these, of all three armies for this team were away from that, I was actually able to drop it, luckily, and that was obviously a huge victory. The fact that we took out the Habo Hobo's expansion over here, and the fact that with those Banshees, I was able to drop Brass's expansion is a big, big gain, because, again, hurting their economy is really all we can do at this point. The fact that we're so segregated away from all the main action, Eon being on this island, and myself being on this island, makes it very difficult. You can see I'm getting very, very close to mine out, making do with what I can for my resources right now, sitting on very low Vespian, obviously making it a little bit more difficult to actually come out with the Banshees as need be, but we can see a big push coming down inside of Fuckler's main base. He is having to deal with the Hydras as well as this main Terran army from Fuckler, but I also moved in with these Banshees, and they lost their cloak detection, so was able to mop up all of those ground forces. Those Vikings doing nothing and fearful of the Stalkers were forced to push back. Now Brass finally moving down with the observers, but again does not want to walk into the Stalkers, so afraid to engage with my Banshees, and because of that we were able to mop up the entire ground army, and now sitting with pretty much no army and no expansions, the opposing team is in quite a difficult position. EonShikeno is losing that factory, unfortunately, to these Vikings that managed to land on the ground. So they do still have the Vikings, and let's take a quick look at the armies here. Now, the Yellow Terran player Fuckler sitting with 15 Vikings, and the Habo Hobo, the Orange Zerg, now with just 11 Hydras, and our Purple Protoss player Brass just sitting on a couple of Stalkers and a War Prism. And the reason they're so far behind right now is simply because we're able to harass those expansions and take them out. You can see right now sitting with a large Banshee force, making do with what few resources I have. I am once more trying to move back inside of the main, and at the same time spotting this high yield expansion from Habo Hobo, target firing down those drones, and then I will be moving to work on that hatchery. And again, we are just suffocating the economies of our opponents, and this is really all we could do at this point. And as you can see, certainly starting to pay off right now. We did see a scan go down from the Terran player Fuckler, but it doesn't really matter. The fact that he scanned those, there was no anti-air to actually deal with it. And then here comes a big, strong push right now. I am moving down with TimeLord's main army, sitting Stalker heavy to protect my Banshees, and we will be taking out yet another expansion. And if they lose this expansion, this could be a big problem. Trying to engage with this force, dropping the expansion, then engaging some nice force fields there from TimeLord. Scan going down. I will be pulling my Banshees away to avoid those, and then just moving right inside of the main base here of Fuckler. We can see the Stalkers able to finally mop up some of those Vikings and deal with the rest of the ground force of Fuckler. And then here I am target firing down that orbital command, forcing the lift off, so now he cannot scan and he cannot deal with these Banshees at this point until he lands that down. He has got no choice but to take this harassment, take this damage. Blank Stalkers of TimeLord pulling back to his expansion because he is having to deal with Brass's push here from the Stalkers as well. So Brass trying to continue up the harassment, and once these blink stalkers here of TimeLord get back, he will actually be able to deal with this no problem. Brass sitting at no upgrades, no blink either, and TimeLord sitting at 1-1 plus that blink is going to have no problem dealing with that right now. We can see the Banshees trying to contend, or trying to stay away rather, from the Vikings and Hydras and Marines of the opponents, and I'm going to be continuing again to push and try to do what I can for damage, trying to pull away because I know those observers are coming but still do damage, and again without that blink I'm able to harass at the high ground without having to deal with that. But since there are not quite enough stalkers pulling down to actually engage with them, take them out, and then start to work on the econ, but no, here comes the Vikings, unfortunately forcing me to pull away, trying to cloak what I can. But as you can see, lots of these Banshees have very low energy, so big gain for Fuckler here. But unfortunately for him, I am pulling back to this expansion that is sitting with quite a few turrets as defense, and at this point I will actually try to repair a few of what I have left, sitting at very low resources. I do have this expansion up here as well, so it was actually able to start working with that. And then I believe I came out with a medevac to try to do a transfer to try to get some of these unused SCVs sitting over here actually start mining at this expansion. We do have TimeLord actually pulled down to finally mop up that expansion that I had started working on, and then using the advantage of mobility of that blink to pull his army away from the forces here. We can see Falker trying to come down with another expansion. Habo Hobo sitting at no expansions right now, very low on resources. In fact, can't even afford an expansion. So at this point, he is remote mining to try to get himself in that position so that he can in fact get one up. Back over here, we can see the main army of Fuckler. I did try to engage, but dealing with the scan, I was forced to pull away. But here come the Stalkers of TimeLord to deal with the Vikings, and that allowed me to just pull back, deal with these Marauders so that he doesn't lose his Stalkers to them, completely mop them up, and here comes the push from TimeLord and myself, and look at that, Fuckler leaving the game, Brass leaving the game, and obviously at this point, Habo Hobo will be leaving the game soon as well. An unbelievable game, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. This will actually be the only team game strategy, or video rather, that I come out with for today. Usually I come out with about 2 to 3 team games, but once more, if you don't know already, I am actually currently on vacation in Las Vegas, so as a result, you know, I'm not able to do as many videos as I would like. I'm actually preloading and pre-recording all of this content and just uploading it for you throughout the week while I am on vacation. So hopefully you enjoyed this game. I tried to bring somewhat epic game to you. Obviously, it wasn't a normal commentary because I was in the game, so it's kind of more focused on my team and what we were doing. But either way, hopefully it was entertaining and enjoyable for you. It was certainly a fun game, and as I said, pretty darn epic. The fact that I lost my main base so early on into the game because of that strong push, and it was actually mainly due to the fact that they took out TimeLord so early, and we had to sacrifice so much just trying to defend him that our main bases were so vulnerable, and that's why myself and Eon lost our main bases. And in all honesty, I think if this second team had focused more on just taking out TimeLord after the massive amounts of damage that Habo Hobo had done to him in the first place, if they had just focused on taking out TimeLord after that fact, I think they could have quite easily won the game. But we were able to move to our island expansions, and with this harassment from the Banshees, and obviously EonShikeno moving into some battle cruisers as well, and just the focus for us on taking out their economy, the opposing team just wasn't actually able to do anything. Now we can see Habo Hobo is still in the game for one reason or another. Obviously the game is far but over, and there we go, finally leaving. So wow, what a game. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed the commentary. As always, guys, if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Keep watching and keep owning.